Your friend sends you a naked picture of a girl he knows. Is it a big deal to share it with others? I've been having this conversation with thousands of Canadians for years, and what's really interesting is that people tend to tell me what they think I want to hear. And if that was in fact the case, that everyone saw that this was a big deal, then we wouldn't need to have this conversation. And yet, sharing of nudes without consent is a huge problem. And so clearly we need to be honest and just really talk openly about the challenges in intervening in this moment. So what I tend to hear is people saying, yeah, it's a big deal because it's a violation of her consent. And that's exactly it. Sharing someone's nudes with someone and then that person goes on and shares them to someone else and shows them to their friends, that's a violation of that person's consent. They didn't agree to have multiple people see it. They sent it to one particular person. And so you violated that person's trust in that moment, and that's a problem. Then sometimes people say, I wouldn't share the photo. It's a big deal because it's child pornography. And yes, it is child pornography to share a nude of someone under the age of 18, but it's also a crime regardless of how old the person is. So Canada has passed a law that it doesn't matter if you're 40 or you're 14. If someone shares an intimate photo of you without your consent, it's a crime. And so it's important that we recognize that absolutely everybody has the right to privacy and that sharing someone's photo without their consent is a crime, but it's also harmful. And so I want you to just think about practically, what would you do in this moment? Who would you talk to? How would you frame it? And what are the consequences for intervening in terms of how people will perceive what you're saying or doing? And so I want you to take a minute now and talk about that. This scenario is a perfect example of how it might be really easy to think of what the right thing is to do, but it's actually really difficult to do the right thing. And part of what makes this scenario so difficult is that we're asking you to call out people that you know. We're asking you to call out your friends. This is your own circle. These are people whose relationships you want to maintain. But it's really important that we have honest conversations about the fact that photos just don't go viral on their own. People made choices. And in this moment, it's important that we distinguish between sexting and online sexual violence. Sexting implies consent. I shared this photo with that person's consent, and I gave consent to take that photo. Whereas online sexual violence is when things go viral without consent, when there's been a violation of that person's trust and boundaries. And that's why it's so important that we speak out and that we call people out when they share nudes without permission. And that means having tough conversations with our friends and questioning why they are sending this to us. And in doing so, we're sending a message to other abusers out there that this is not something that's going to be tolerated. That if you even think about doing this to someone, that we're going to call you out. It's also important for us to have a conversation about what we're going to do to support the woman in that photo. This person had their trust violated. People are probably making fun of them. People are talking about them. It's a really painful experience to go through. And when we get stuck on, well, she shouldn't have taken the photo in the first place, we're ignoring the fact that the photo already exists and we can't go back in time. So what can we do to support this person now that they're having to deal with this humiliation in your community or in your school? Again, we really need to respect and have compassion for people, even when they make choices that are different than our own. And it's too easy to sit back and say, well, I would never take nudes. I would never do something that stupid. Okay, but someone else's nudes are now on your phone. Who are you going to be in this moment? And if you surround yourself by people who are not going to support you in speaking out about this, then that says more about their character than it will ever say about you. Because we want to surround ourselves by people who support us, who would look out for us, and also are going to have our back when we have those difficult but really necessary conversations about how to end sexual violence in our communities.